Hi everyone, Linda here from the Scrapbooking Photographer. Today I am joining in on the hop for Stamping Like It's Hot. And the challenge we have for this month is to stamp something and cut it out. So there's various ways that we can do that. If you have a die cutting machine such as a Cuttlebug, you can cut the dies and then stamp them, which is what I'm going to do with this set from the Cozy Up card making workshop that came out with Close to My Heart a month or so ago. The other way is just to stamp and fussy cut. And this stamp here is one of my very favourites because it's heart-shaped with paw prints in it. So that's the one I'm going to use that technique on. And I'll probably cut a few of those, I think. So the photos that I'm working with are from a little shoot that I did in the dog park where there was a gathering of canine friends, and they'd asked me along to take some photos of these dogs. So I did some of them playing, and then we did some formal shots of them in amongst the beautiful autumn leaves. So the red bandana that they wear identifies them as canine friends, and these dogs are very clever. They are trained and accredited to go to hospitals, hospices. Some of them go to libraries and help children to read, and they're comfort dogs. They help people to calm down, they help the children to concentrate to read. They really are a treasure to the community. So these were taken on a day where they were celebrating a milestone for the organisation. And it's going to be a double page spread, so the other page is going to have the journaling and the story and some of the play photos. But I really wanted to do these gallery shots today with this challenge in mind. So I thought that the autumn colours went well with this piece of plaid mocha from the Cozy Up pack. On the other side there are some leaves. I don't think I'm going to use that. And I'm using a back piece of toffee. Now, all Close to My Heart cardstock comes two-sided. So you get a light side on one side and dark side on the other. I'm going to use the dark side. And I've also got out my coordinating inks. So I'm thinking that if I use the mocha ink on things that are going against the toffee and toffee on the things that are going against the mocha, we should get some nice contrast. Anyway, so let's see how we go. So I'll speed the rest of this video up, but the first thing I'm going to do is take the zip strip off this piece of mocha plaid paper, and I'm trimming 2 strips of 3 inches wide. So they become 3 inches by 12 inches so that I can space them onto my toffee piece, and that gives us 2 spots to put our gallery photos. I will trim some of these photos, but just laying them out, I want to make sure they're in the right place, and I want the dogs on the left looking into the page and the ones on the right looking in the other way. So once I've got them in the right place, I can trim them down. And because I like things fairly even, I'm going to make the 2 on the outside the same size, and then make the one in the middle a little bit different somehow. So using the bottom of the trimmer where the ruler is, I can gauge how much I can trim off to have the full length of the photo. I don't want to chop anything of the dog off. So I've just measured that one's 5 inches and it needs to be 3.5 wide. So those 2 are the same. The middle one's going to be 3.5 wide, but I'm actually going to mount it to make it a little bit bigger than the other 2, a little bit taller. So those ones will fit nicely like that, and then it's just a matter of doing the same with the ones on the bottom. The German Shepherd at the bottom is slightly bigger, so he's almost full size, and the 2 on the side are similarly matched to each other. So taking the little one at the top, I'm just going to mount him in a little piece of candy apple red, just to highlight that bandana that they wear, and also to make the 2 centre photos a similar size. So then it's time for some stamping, which is what today's video is all about. So bringing out my forever favourite stamp of the hearts with the paw prints, I'll find a block that's the right size, and then bringing in some toffee, I'm going to use the light side, so that's the other side to what we've used on the page, and stamp with mocha on top of it, and turning it around so I can fit as many as I possibly can onto this piece of toffee. I think I want 6, so I need 4 on there and 2 on this extra piece of paper. And then all I'm going to do is fussy cut them out after I've cleaned my stamp. I quite enjoy fussy cutting things out, and often it's fun to do with photos as well. But for today, we're fussy cutting these heart shapes out, and there isn't actually an outline line to the stamp, so it's not hugely important if they're all the same or not. So I'm just going close to the edge of them, and you could either make it a rounded corners or sharp pointy corners or whatever, so they're roughly all the same. When I put them onto the page, they're going to be quite spaced out, and as I bring the page in and just dry fit them around, I realise that they'll be quite handy in covering some of those sharp corners that we've ended up with at the edges of photos and the strips of paper. So that looked a little bit unbalanced to me, so I ended up moving that one on the side up to the top, so 2, 2 and 2. So I quite like that look, and then it's time to stamp and die cut. So this set came with the Cozy Up card making set, and as you can see, I've got a few little pieces left over from another project that I'm just trying to see if they'll work. But I think that one at the bottom is a little bit too big, so I will pop that back into the container and cut some small ones. So bringing out the stamps first, we'll choose the 4 smaller ones that I'm going to use, and I'll just line them up along the top of the Versamat there so that you can see them. And then I'll dive into the thin cuts and select the matching thin cuts for them so that you can see how they work. So what we do is bring in lots of scraps of piece of paper, and these are the colours that I've chosen to go with the page, and using the sandwich on the thin cut machine. So I've got an A plate, a piece of rubber, a B plate, and then the paper, the thin cuts, and then another B plate. So I'll bring the Cuttlebug in so that you can see it come through the other side. Now some people, when they do this, stamp first and then cut, but I find that you need to keep things in place with washi tape or whatever, so I prefer to do it this way, where I can just cut the different pieces of paper to get a variety of colours with the same thin cuts by putting it through a few times, and then I'll stamp them all at once. So here we are with them all cut, and then using the same mocha ink on them all, it's just a matter of lining the stamp up and stamping on top. So with a thin cut, you can see that it needs to be the right way up, because otherwise the stamp won't fit, obviously. So those little maple leaves look quite good, and the mocha colour works on all of them, I think. So once I'm finished with that leaf, I can clean that stamp and change over to another one, and then gradually work my way through all of the matching leaves and end up with almost a forest. Once I'm finished with this size block, I can use the smaller block for the little ones, because it's always good to use a block that's only just bigger than what you're wanting to stamp. That way you avoid getting ink in the wrong places. And then when it's finished, it's really important to put all the thin cuts back where they came from, and the stamps back on the piece of sheet so that you know everything's there. It's kind of like doing a mini audit. And the stamps work well on a piece of foam, and then when you put them together, I always put the stamps to the back of the thin cuts so that those thin cuts don't get pressed into the face of the stamp
or at least you're reducing that fact. And then it's a good spot to store any leftover thin cuts for another project. So we've brought the page back in, and now it's time to do some sticking. So I'll just go ahead and stick the label onto the top of the candy apple where we're putting this little pooch underneath. You can see underneath it was just a scrap of candy apple that I'm putting in there. And then using the Versamat, I'm going to adhere that brown strip, that mocha strip, making sure it's nice and straight by using the Versamat. And likewise, when I put this little pooch at the top, I can use the Versamat at the top to make sure he's in the centre. And then tucking the two on either side at the similar angles, just tucking them underneath on those bottom corners so that they look pretty symmetrical there. And then using the Versamat down the bottom again, I can make sure that the measurements from the bottom are the same as what it is from the top. And then putting Mr. German Shepherd in the middle, actually I think it's a lady dog. And then the same process of tucking the two on the side and at the same angle so that they look like they're similar to the ones on the top. So that's all kind of stuck in now, and I like the way this is starting to look. And then it's just a matter of putting these hearts around. Now I'm using some foam stickies to put them down in, and actually it's using the bits that come out of the middle of the shaker windows. So nothing is worth throwing out, everything can have a use. So I've popped them all around where we had them dry fitted before, and then it's time to put the leaves around. So rather than having any embellishment groups, I will end up kind of grouping some together, but I want it to be more of a scattering of leaves, which is a bit more like we get in the autumn time. So while I do that and fiddle with that, I'll just remind you that this is a hop. So it's really good if you can watch everybody's video in this hop so that you can see what the others do with the stamping and cutting. So there's lots of different ideas for you to gain inspiration from by doing that. And if you like what you see, then don't forget to like the video and perhaps subscribe to the channel and even leave a comment, which is really appreciated by all the creators. Once everything is stuck down, and I think that's probably enough, anything that I have got left over, I'm going to pop back into the container with the thin cuts. So I've still got some there for another project. To do the title, I'm using this pennant alphabet, and I'm just going to put the word gallery because, as I said, the main information and heading will be on the left-hand page. So I thought I would just share with you what I do when I've got two L's together with a stamp. And what I've done here is used the F upside down just to give me the spacing. So while I get everything nice and straight, I've got the F in there as the second L, and then I'll take it out obviously before I stamp the bulk of the word. And then I know that that space is there ready for the L to go in, which I can put in on a little block once everything else is done. Cool. And then I did leave two little leaves at the top there that I can bring in to put either side of the title, just to give it a little bit of emphasis in this autumn themed page. At the beginning, I did think about mounting the page with a frame, but I didn't really have enough space with all the photos. So now that it's finished, I still want to do something. So I'm just going around the outside with my mocha ink on the blending brush, just to kind of, well, blend it, and also just to give a little darker tone around the outside. In this case, it doesn't really matter that everything's there because the colours all blend in anyway. But when I get to the top with that red and white, I will lift it up so that I don't have any accidents. So that is the end of my Stamping Like It's Hot. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting, everyone.